Positive reaction from Palestinians, but as you can imagine, the reaction is very different in Israel. We're going to get the latest on that with our Jerusalem correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky. Noga, what more can you tell us?
Well, the Israeli government has responded about as violently as imaginable. The Israeli ambassador to the United States, who is a political appointment, a close associate of Prime Minister Netanyahu, accused the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer of being a new Nazi, a new Chamberlain who is now defending the new Nazis. That's a quote. So as to prevent there being an Islamic invasion of Britain. That's how sharp the responses have been, although they haven't really been substantial. We have not heard in detail from any Israeli leader, for example, how a Palestinian state would endanger Israel, what defenses Israel might put up if it felt threatened by a Palestinian state or anything like that. It's all been in very, very sharp exchanges of discourse. Israelis themselves, I think, are quite confused by what's happening and don't understand how this recognition may end up impacting them, or what this diplomatic move far away from here may do for Israel's diplomatic standing in the future. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu, in a very sharp speech last night, hinted at future moves. He said that his response will come after his return from the United States, where he's going on Friday to deliver an address to the UN General Assembly late Friday, and on Monday afterwards, so in a week from now, he will meet Donald Trump. What my understanding is that Prime Minister Netanyahu is basically going to D.C. to try and get an okay from President Trump about annexing or declaring sovereignty over certain territories of the occupied West Bank, territories that have been in occupation, a kind of reserve for a future Palestinian state. Donald Trump will therefore next weekend find himself in quite a dilemma. On the one hand, Israel demanding the right to take over this land so as to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. And on the other hand, nations that are very important to him, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, saying explicitly that if Israel so much as makes a declaration of sovereignty over any of these lands, they will consider this a violation of the Abraham Accords, to which the UAE is a primary signatory, and that was a huge achievement of Donald Trump's first term. It's going to end up being Donald Trump who decides what Netanyahu can or cannot do.
Right. And what's so interesting about all of this, Noga, is that settlements continue to be built across the West Bank, with Netanyahu promising to create even more.
That's right. They do continue to be built, but what's happening now is of a very different order. The settlements that are being built are mostly being installed. We're talking about small caravans, kind of defiant hilltop youth, they're called here, settlers who go on any random territory in the West Bank, whether it's privately owned by a Palestinian or unclaimed land, and simply install themselves and say this is a new settlement. Under previous governments, this has been not just discouraged, but often destroyed. Under this government of Netanyahu and many of his ministers, who are themselves ultra-right-wing ministers, some of whom, like the finance minister, themselves live in unrecognized illegal West Bank settlements, this policy has been encouraged. But what could really change the panorama is if Netanyahu gives a formal and complete go-ahead to construction in the zone known as E1. This is between Jerusalem and the Judean desert, and this would simply bisect the West Bank, creating an Israeli corridor that would prevent the establishment of a contiguous Palestinian state in the West Bank afterwards. This is the very controversial move that apparently, so far as we understand here, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to try and get an okay from Donald Trump to do.
Noga, thanks for that. France 24's Noga Tarnopolsky in Jerusalem.